India has experienced rapid growth in the past decade. Everybody knows that fact. It is often written about. Yet some 350 million people in the country still live in extreme poverty. Joining me now is Abraham George. He is the author of the recent book, India Untouched, The Forgotten Face of World Poverty. He also started a foundation and a school for children in India. The school was featured in Tom Friedman's documentary on outsourcing, and here is a look at the school.
It must be an amazing leap, though, for these kids coming from the village to be doing Excel.
Right, but there's no difference between them and any other children.
What would you like to be when you grow up?
An astronaut.
Astronaut. What would you like to be?
I would like to be a doctor, pediatrician, a poetess.
Do you write poetry now already?
Yes.
Whoa, that's wonderful. That's a great thing to want to be.
Physics and chemistry.
Physics and chemistry. Wow.
I am pleased to have Abraham George here to talk about this book. Here's what's interesting from Tom Friedman's foreword. Tom Friedman frequently comes on this show and is well known to the audience here. The school he talks about was started by Abraham George, who came back to India with a single mission to start a privately financed boarding school that would take India's most deprived children and prove that if you give them access to the same technologies and the same education that have enabled other Indians to thrive in globalization, those underprivileged children could thrive too. I am pleased to have Abraham George here to talk about the phenomenon. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Tell me why you do this.
Well, I've been here in the United States for 25 years and I'm an American, and I felt that I should give something back. I should return and work among the poor and give them the opportunity that I had when I came here, you know, to have a good education and have a good career. And this is my turn.
So that's a noble idea.
Yes.
Lots of noble ideas die along the wayside, victims of all kinds of things.
Yes. How
were you able to do it? I mean, what did you do?
Well, I came back to India with the idea that I should take children from the poorest of the poor, the so-called untouchables of India, and give them the same opportunity that people from children from rich families have. And what I have learned in the United States as a businessman is that if you really work hard at it, you can accomplish it. And so going back to India, working with the children in a school that I started, offering world-class education, I just kept going despite all the obstacles that I faced in accomplishing it. It's now 10 years.
And what have you learned, and what has been the result?
The main lesson is that if you give opportunity to children, regardless of their backgrounds, they will succeed. We are talking about children from the poorest of the poor, below families with income below 50 cents a day for a family of 4, and they haven't seen, they have never written on a piece of paper, used a pencil or a pen. And we take children at the age of 4, and 10 years later, finding that these children are just as good, just as excellent as any other, you know, who have gone to very good boarding schools.
And what does that say to you?
It simply says that those who have the ability to help.
Those who have access, it said, yes. First of all, those who have access to the same kinds of instruction, the same kinds of tools, and the same kinds of nurturing,
yes,
have a chance.
That is correct. And we owe them. We owe these poor children from poor homes. There is an idea, the concept usually is that the poor don't deserve those types of things. They need to be taken out of the street, or they may be given some skills so that they can have another job. But the idea that the poorest of the poor can excel, can be doctors, engineers, whatever they are, that concept is not very much embraced by the world. And I'm trying to prove that children from these types of backgrounds can also succeed.
Why isn't it embraced by the world?
I guess that because of the large numbers that we are dealing with, we are talking about, in India alone, I believe that over 50% of the people are poor, below $1 a day. In the world, you're talking about almost 3 billion people. So, you know, how do you provide institutions of excellence to lots of people? But the idea that I had was that, yes, you cannot probably do that for everyone, but sure, among the poor, there are children who have the potential to succeed, and those who have the privilege of making money ought to go back and try and give them that opportunity.
And what has it given you?
It has given me a lot of satisfaction. It's very wonderful to see the children, you know, each year doing better, and just like my own children. You know, it's a great satisfaction. I just keep doing my work and seeing them grow.
And the excitement they have, you see with Tom Friedman, the excitement about computers. I mean, you introduce computers to kids, and it does what for them? It just...
It does wonders. You know, computers are just one other tool. They play piano. They, you know, they perform dances, and they study like any other children, mathematics and all the other subjects, just like any one of the good schools anyway, boarding schools.
Jeffrey Sachs was here. You know Jeffrey Sachs.
Yes, yes.
You know, he's on a crusade. He believes that with the right amount of resources, we can eliminate poverty in the world and certainly make a stab at it sooner rather than later. Do you believe that?
I wrote an article which was published recently. I believe that money alone is not going to solve the problem. One of the reasons for poverty is that is poor governance. I do not believe that corrupt governments and inefficient bureaucracies are going to deliver the goods. Yes, money will help, but we have to find a different model for delivering the services and giving the opportunities to the poor.
And what's the model?
The model that I see is that first, that money is being channeled by donors and international organizations through governments. And many of these governments are corrupt. And like Rajiv Gandhi, the former Prime Minister of India, said, hardly 15 cents to a dollar finally gets to the ultimate beneficiary. So if,
then why is that?
Because all the middlemen.
Corruption, middlemen.
Yes, and then
politics, competition for the.
It is corruption, inefficiencies, paperwork, bureaucracy, a whole lot of reasons, and the poor planning. Range of things, and I do not think that people who don't have any risks to take would do the right thing. And so the model has to be that we have to figure out ways where private institutions, not necessarily governments, do take part in the development.
Are private institutions ready to do that?
Yes, they are. Right now, there isn't much profit to be made in rural areas because people are poor. But if the government would create an environment whereby they have the incentive to undertake projects in the rural area. For example, if the government would provide tax holidays for opening up factories in rural areas, or
tax holidays?
Yes, for a period of 5 years.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or offer low-interest loans and so on. They may be willing to set up factories and start companies that are in the agricultural sector. For example, processing of food, packaging. Take for example the whole industry surrounding alternate medicine, ginseng and products like that. They are all grown in the villages, but the processing is taking place in the urban area. So these health products and so on, companies can move into the villages and do that. Pulp industry, paper industry, leather industry, cement, whole range of industries can be moved into the villages.
Is Prime Minister Singh on board in this?
So far, what I have seen is that government is trying to offer credit to landlords who want to do farming. The beneficiaries are going to be few people, mainly the landlords and a few officials who can start businesses. But the trick is, how do you give opportunity to 500 million people? I haven't seen anything that has changed.
It seems like an insurmountable challenge, but most challenges, are there to be surmounted.
Yes, absolutely.
So
I believe
500 million people.
There is so much land and unused land. The problem is that there is no water for people to cultivate. And where there is water, there is less poverty. And so one of the things that the government will have to do is to improve the infrastructure, make rivers, divert rivers and canals so the water is available, make electricity available, make roads. Those are the things that the government can do. But at the end of the day, what we have to provide for is the poor having the opportunity to own land.
Right.
And that is something that we have been trying to do in our foundation's work in India.
Tell me about the School of Journalism.
Journalism school was started because of my frustration with the government that and the press. The media wasn't willing to write about the corruption and all the things that are wrong within the society. Maybe there is a level of fear that the government may retaliate. So I decided that I'll start a school for journalism and train, say, 20 or 30 young people on the noble values that they should cultivate in the profession. And so today it is one of the best journalism schools in India.
And are we having more reporting coming out of India now about corruption and fraud and the inability of government and private sector to respond to critical human needs?
The stories appear for a day, but they just disappear as fast as they appeared. Maybe they get a phone call from government officials and the media is unwilling to carry that forward.
Yeah. This book is called India, the Forgotten Face of Rural Poverty, Untouched, an astounding work of great significance at the times of India. We all of us need to understand the problems of poverty. We have devoted a number of programs to it, and it's easy to do that, to devote programs to it. It's much harder to do something about it, but there seems to be, and some wiser person said, the first step is recognition that we are in crisis and have to do something. And because of books like this and other things, people are beginning to understand that a response is not just necessary, but it is imperative and essential. India Untouched again, Abraham M. George. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.